sammanfattande översättning på svenska efter var 5:e minut eller hur ni nu vill göra. Jan, vill du? Ja, precis. Yeah, and now there will be an introduction of you by Jan, so please.
Men det blir på svenska. Jag heter Jan Olsson, bara kort mig själv då. Rev är en organisation till vilken Västra Götalandsregionen hör, Stockholm, Göteborgs stad och Coompanion i det här området. Jag har i 20 år, det är min arbetserfarenhet, jag har i 20 år så att säga arbetat med kooperativa frågor, och den första, och speciellt på Europaplanet, en av de första personerna jag träffade i Bryssel, det var faktiskt Bruno Dunkel. Då var han 20 år yngre och kanske det var hans första arbetserfarenhet. För då började han på Soficatra som han kommer att presentera sedan. Och det intressanta var då att vi var lite mer inblandade i Soficatra på den tiden, därför att Folksam hade ett erbjudande om att bli medlemmar i Soficatra när det startades i början av 90-talet. Men de sa tyvärr nej. Tyvärr säger jag. Och det får ni höra då av Bruno sen. Bruno har alltså under, tror jag, större delen av sitt arbetsliv arbetat med finansiella frågor. Jag har stött på honom på väldigt mycket konferenser där han har presenterat Soficatra. Han jobbar dels med projekt i Europa. Det finns ju också finansiering här i Sverige. Lemat. Och också i Östeuropa där de har en alldeles speciell organisation. Okej, därmed är du introducerad, Bruno. Well, you're introduced, but you haven't understood what I've said. More or less, maybe. More or less. Did you get a thing about Folksam being invited to participate in Soficatra from the beginning?
That was fine. Okay, good. So fine. No, because I feel a bit like a rock star, or a kind of a speaker for the TV, which I'm not used to be. I'm very happy to be among you today. This is not for me the first time in Sweden, but this is the first time here in Göteborg, and I'm quite impressed actually with all I've seen and experienced up to now. I spent my first night yesterday at Lemat Bed and Breakfast, and actually I feel very, very proud in a way that my company, Soficatra, is one of the companies from the investment point of view that made the project come true. And so I really hope that Lemat project is going in the future to spread all over Sweden and in Europe, because it's a European project also from the start and by the nature. And this creates, I would say, the link to this more European perspective. As Jan told you, my company, Soficatra, is based, it is a investment company based in Brussels. So I'm more going to bring you into a kind of European perspective to start today, bringing you also some concrete examples of what is investment in social enterprises, not only in Sweden, but also in different countries. The concept of social enterprises, I suppose, is becoming clearer with the time. It's right now quite trendy, actually, especially at the European level. But it's still different and still very, the definition is very flexible according to what countries and to what context we are talking about. So I would like more to take the first introduction point of view of the cooperatives, because this is very social by nature, and this is what my company Soficatra has been made for, is help and support the development of existing cooperatives all over Europe, with a prospect to really help them enlarge their activities. Originally, it was meant to only support those cooperatives which wanted to go abroad and to enlarge their activities to international markets, let's say, within the European Union. Then we realized that actually the market, that market is very narrow. And what is really needed when we are talking about finance for existing cooperatives is something at a much smaller scale. It's money to help the cooperatives to either for the short or long term support investment, working capital, buy some goods, and it's not just only about getting to new markets. It's also about strengthening the existing markets, finding new ways to develop your activities, new products, adapting yourself to a very evolving market. So all this has been covered, I would say, by my company for more than 20 years right now. So I would say, even though we are very small, and I mean both in terms of staff and in terms of financing capacity, we nevertheless covered quite a large area of different issues, different topics that can arise during the lifetime of a company, and especially when it is a cooperative company, when it is a company focused on its social mission. I would like to stress first that cooperatives, like many other social economy enterprises, are really first based on the people. So that human capital, I would say, is really the key. And this is something that is really to be well understood by those people, authorities, agencies and so on, that want to support and help the development of the cooperative sector. Is they really have to understand the people and to invest on the people, because they are really the key persons to succeed with the project. And for most of the traditional, I would say, investment or investing partners, I would mean like banks, for instance, and so on, this is something they have really large difficulties, big difficulties to understand. How important the people are, and their commitment also towards the project. And therefore, within the social economy sector, specialized instruments develop with the time in order to provide adapted answer to the real needs of those people supporting, creating and developing their own enterprises with a cooperative status, or in the future with another status, but a strong mission statement. So this is why kind of very large presentation, an introduction, sorry. So from a European point of view, when we are talking about cooperatives, of course we know there are quite many different types of cooperatives. Labor cooperatives, consumer cooperatives, agriculture, handicrafts and so on. But it's also important to know that it's not only the legal status that we are talking about. In other countries, like in Spain, for instance, you have another status that is like a cooperative, but which is actually a limited company, but with the workers as shareholders. They are called the SALs, S-A-L. So this is another legal status that fits actually the definition of a cooperative, but nevertheless it's not labeled as a cooperative. So it's very important also not to be focused only on the word cooperative, but to understand well what is the mission statement behind the company. And from the point of view of the beneficiaries, when we are talking about the financial instruments that have been created in Europe, as I said, not only cooperatives are beneficiaries, but also those enterprises going through a kind of crisis situation. Some instruments are really specialized in developing solutions for the takeover of bankrupt company or almost bankrupt company under the form of a cooperative. And this is quite an expertise, quite a know-how that has been developed in different countries. Well, I'm thinking also at Italy and France, because they have a specific legal framework to support this kind of operations. And this brings me to talk about also that context, the legal context. It's very important to have a supporting legal context for helping the development of cooperatives or for the development of social enterprises in each country, each region. France, Italy have developed such a legal context. Some other countries are considering, and I think this is a movement that has been to be backed by the field. So by the enterprises, by the sectors, by all agencies, development agencies working on the field. It's very important to raise awareness and to bring to the public, really, that even though there is a willingness, there is effort, and there is a lot of concrete realizations from the field, if we do not have the proper legal environment, it will ever be difficult. And that environment is something to be implemented with the support, of course, of all the authorities concerned. So when we are talking about how to support social enterprises, how to support cooperatives, we have to talk, of course, about finance, but not only about finance. Finance is very often considered as a key element, it's true. But ourselves, as financial people, we also consider that finance is not the only answer and the only way to help the creation or the development of existing enterprises. Very important also is how you support the people, again, involved in the company. So all the coaching, all the training, all the accompanying measures that have been or have to be implemented in order to help, really, the people get more capacity. So we are talking here about capacity building. We are talking here about training. We are talking here about empowering the people in their position, I would say, of worker and owner of their business. So now back to the financial products. We have different ways to finance, of course, a company. The one we think at the very first time is getting a loan from a bank, from any kind of supporting financial institution. But that's not very easy, and I suppose many of you know that, simply because another element is missing, and that element is the own funds, so the capital. And therefore, specific instruments have been created to provide capital to social enterprises and cooperatives. My company, for instance, is one of these, and we have that focus to provide what we call equity or quasi-equity to cooperatives. When I say equity, it's capital, and when I say quasi-equity, it's something which is a bit like capital, but not shares. It could be different according to countries. In some countries, again, they have invented and implemented specific shares or products, I would say, that are not capital but considered as capital. And those are very specific and can help people who do not have, who have a kind of risk aversion. Yeah. Quasi equity. Quasi equity. So typically you have capital shares on the one side, and on the other side you would have like subordinated debt, very subordinated, or in some countries like in France or in Italy you have, it is called shares, but actually they are not, frankly speaking, because there is no voting right. It's simply a title that gives you right to a certain risk coverage, but you have no voting right. And therefore, it is not considered as capital. So in most of the cooperatives, and I say not in all of them, but in most of the cooperatives, you have the one man, one vote principle. You mean flexible from? Every case is one single case. And this is something that has to be very clear for an investor point of view, that we have to deal with everyone on a case-by-case approach. So even though you might have some standard approach, how we are going to finalize the project is going to be very specific for that case, for that enterprise. Because of many reasons. For Soficatra, for instance, because we can invest in many different countries all over Europe, by nature it is different in each country. And even though we are making, let's say, different investment in one country, each investment is considered as a single one, and a very typical one. And it's not the same than the others. We try as much as possible to use all what the legal environment can propose in terms of support, in terms of, let's say, products and ways to finance the company. But the real assessment and the decision will be based on that single approach. It's really case by case. Each company is different from another one. So if you have questions, please do not hesitate to, of course, to ask. So when we are talking about equity or quasi-equity, then it gets difficult to find people, investment partners that really can understand what is the need and what is the specific to that company, and therefore, again, this proximity you can create with the investment partner is something very important. There has to be good understanding. There has to be willingness on both sides to create a common project. And then you need really dedicated investment partners. Because if you look at the very traditional, let's say, financial market, you won't find those partners. And therefore, with the time, the social economy sector in the different countries has developed such dedicated investment partners. Soficatra is one of them. In France, you have other dedicated partners again, really, in order to provide that equity base that is really absolutely needed to start a business or to develop a business. You have the same thing in Italy, in England, in Sweden. You have also committed partners, and some will later on this morning talk about their experience and their approach, their specific approach. But the problem is, if we are looking at the needs, that actually all the needs are not covered with the existing committed social investors. So we need to enlarge the capacity, the investment capacity of these existing investment partners, because the needs are becoming bigger. And especially now that we are not talking only about cooperative, but we enlarge also the scope to social enterprises, quite in general, then again, needs are becoming bigger. And the movement in itself has a kind of limited capacity to mobilize the financing and to raising the funding that is needed for that. And therefore, at least at European level, there is right now quite a big debate and important awareness that has been raised in order also to mobilize funds at European levels, so to downscale and to help the development of local enterprises, local social enterprises in their own financing capacity. So there is a movement from, let's say, from the very top of the scale, and also from the field. So let's hope that with the quite rapidly, both movement will meet, and that at every intermediary level, also the conditions will be created to channel that funding directly to the social businesses. Okay. Well, frankly speaking, I know only one Swedish bank, which is Ekobanken. Simply because we are partner. We are partner. And you know, social economy certainly is limited in its capacity. Human capacity is limited. Financial capacities are limited. Willingness is large. Ambitions are also quite important. But those obstacles are difficult to overcome. And therefore, one big learning, I think, of the social economy sector is that if one alone cannot develop and face and meet a specific request, it has to work in cooperation with others. And so get stronger by reunifying the different instruments, the different forces, is certainly, I would say, a way to overcome the problems. For Filmad, for instance, Soficatra is one among others. We are in partnership with Ekobanken. We are in partnership also with ALMI. We were very, very satisfied to attract ALMI to this specific financial building for the project. We have, of course, all the Wegenet movement, and all these forces put together we could then help and get the project really started. Because this was a startup. This was a difficult moment for this is really at the moment where for a company you have most of the difficulty to attract external funding. So this way of working together, working in partnership, I think is something we have to strengthen and we have to build on for the development of social economy and social enterprises in the future. Getting back to your question, Soficatra, how we can do, this is part of the answer. We won't do it just alone. We are based in Brussels. We are not here in Sweden. We do not have, you know, excellent knowledge of the environment. We do not speak the language, as you can notice. So we need local partners. And we it's not just a question of risk, I mean financial risk. It's also a question of more operation and really understanding the people correctly and what are the needs and so on.
Ursäkta, kan inte du prata lite högre?
Yeah. So, well, the question concerning actually how we operate, whether we want to take a certain percentage, whether we provide loans or capital or so, again, this is case by case. Certainly, we do not want to be majority. We do not want to take over the management or the company. This is not. We are a financial partner. We are not meant to know exactly how to deal with daily business. So we provide that money that is needed for a certain time. We are limited in time. We are long term. We are talking about 7 years in an average, 5 to 7 years. But there will be an exit. There has to be an exit. We provide equity, so capital, or we can also provide a kind of mix between capital and loan for different reasons. When you provide equity, when you provide capital, as I said, there will be an exit. So there has to be a commitment to repurchase the money we have invested. And that commitment, most of the time, is on the people themselves. It's a heavy commitment. So therefore, it's sometimes better to balance, I would say, the whole financial building, so that part of the effort is also supported by the company. And therefore, we provide a loan, because the loan has to be repaid by the company. So all the specificity of each case is to find the right balance between what is needed in capital, what is needed in loan, what partners, again, local partners, and in order to really know what capacity has to be strengthened also within the company. And this is part of the discussion, because in a way we are going to enter into a marriage. It's for long term, so we have to know exactly who are the people getting engaged to each other. You wanted to say something?
2 minutes left.
2 minutes only? Oh gosh. Well, okay. I have so many things to say. Yes, please. So our capital comes from other financial institutions. Each one is a national one. Each one is also cooperative-minded. Each one is, either cooperative or, let's say, social-minded, in the sense that there is a limit on profit. distribution of eventual dividends are not meant to get people richer, but more to be kept within the company. Or when we are talking about a mutual insurance company, is really the members themselves who get a kind of feedback of their original contribution. So this is the background. We have, I get to you, we have 11 shareholders, let's say, coming from 7 different countries.
We have few people here having an education. I just want you to tell us, in few words, what are your conditions to have support from people, to start something, to begin something. Clearly, your condition.
Well, have a good project, have committed people, loyalty, with willingness to really increase and to do something, to have, I would say, a clear mission statement. This is what I want to do, also from a social point of view. And it has to be proven also through all the process of the company that everything is in line with the mission statement. That's very important. If you are dealing with customers, for instance, it's very important that you have loyalty towards the customers as well, that you treat your customers on transparent base, you provide them with clear information, they know exactly about the product, what is the origin of the product, and so on. Whatever be the service. If you are talking about financial terms, I have to say this is really depending on the project. We are not providing concessional rates. We are more oriented to what the market would propose. Again, because we are not the only one. We are in partnership with other partners. And for instance, in Sweden, definitely, I mean, Ekobanken and Soficatra, they provide to have a kind of combined approach for many terms, many modalities of the finance that is provided in terms of repayment, in terms even of interest and of so-called collateral. We are not a bank, so actually we do not really take collateral. That's very important. We do not take collateral, but we are very, very strong and very, very focused on the capital, the human capital, because this is, according to us, the main collateral we can have on the company.
Thank you so much. Big applause. And here's a present from Gothenburg. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And I think you maybe should make du kanske ska göra en kort sammanfattning på svenska helt enkelt, Kristoffer, mycket kort innan vi tar in nästa talare då. Så vi väntar 2 minuter tills nästa. Ja. Thank you very much.
Så, vilken ära att försöka översätta det här. Jag ska absolut inte ta det ord för ord, för så fort han inte skriva. Han inledde med att berätta att kopplingen till Sverige är ju väldigt konkret. Att Soficatra tillsammans med Ekobanken har finansierat LeMat, som är en bed and breakfast här i Göteborg. Han har pratat om ett europeiskt perspektiv och också några konkreta exempel. Hela det här området är ju en ganska flexibel definition som man sedan inte ägnade sig åt så mycket, helt medvetet, för det kan man prata om i flera timmar. Soficatra då har funnits i mer än 20 år och arbetar med utveckling och start utav sociala företag. Det är ett ganska litet investeringsföretag med 11 ägare i 7 länder. De arbetar med riskkapital och med lån. De tar inte säkerhet för sin utlåning. Viktig sak runt kooperativ är att de baserade på människor, och det är helt enkelt nyckeln till allt, vilket man kanske inte ser på samma sätt när det gäller traditionella investerare, men här är människan i centrum. Och därför så måste man ha specialdesignade instrument för socialt företagande. Han pratade en hel del om att den legala kontexten, alltså lagstiftningen i olika länder, har väldigt stor betydelse för hur pass väl det går att utveckla kooperativa företag. Och den ser väldigt olika ut i olika länder och det finns hybrider utav det, där man har det väldigt olika. Och det är en förutsättning att det finns bra lagstiftning för att man i ett land och en region ska kunna utveckla bra sociala företag överhuvudtaget, annars så blir det väldigt kämpigt. När vi pratar om stöd så är det inte bara människor som ska stödjas, utan det är också finansiering. Det handlar också om att inte bara ställa upp med finansiering. Vi måste ju också få människor att växa, empowerment, att ta sig från ett läge till ett annat, att lyfta människor, och det handlar väldigt mycket om utbildning. När det då gäller finansieringslösningar så är det första naturligtvis vi tänker på är lån, men det saknas oftast eget kapital, och Soficatra arbetar med ägarkapital och andra ägarliknande former, en sorts kvasi- eller hybridkapital som då kan kallas för förlagslån eller förlagsinsatser på svenska. Det krävs väldigt bra samarbete mellan projekt och investerare, och båda måste vara väldigt dedikerade. Sociala entreprenörer kräver engagerade investerare. Och de behov som finns runt socialt entreprenörskap kräver då engagerade partner. Rörelsen i sig har lite begränsad kapacitet att få till tillräckligt med kapital, och därför så på EU-nivå har det uppmärksammats, så att man märker att det både från absolut högsta nivå finns en uppmärksamhet för de här frågorna, samtidigt som det är en gräsrotsrörelse utav väldigt många verksamheter som startar och växer. Det är viktigt att i det här kombinera olika instrument och partner. Det är det som skapar styrkan. Det handlar inte om att ha stora finansiella muskler, utan det handlar om att skapa partnerskap. Och just när det gäller Lemat här i Göteborg så är ju Soficatra en, Ekobanken är en, det finns privata investerare, Almi är med och så vidare. Och det är så man skapar styrkan i projektet. Soficatra arbetar långsiktigt men inte för evigt. Alltså så att man vill ha en exit och man vill ha en utgång. Till exempel vill man vara med i 7 år och sen behövs det någon som tar över efteråt. Antingen att det är tillbakabetalt eller att det finns någon annan ägare som kan kliva in. Och det kräver naturligtvis ett lokalt engagemang, för Soficatra är en liten organisation och kan inte ha kännedomen om investeringar i varje enskilt land, utan det krävs en lokal partner, det krävs ett lokalt engagemang som kan ta över. När det gäller utlåning så måste man ju hitta en balans mellan vad som krävs i lån överhuvudtaget. Det måste man titta på, hur mycket pengar krävs överhuvudtaget i lån, vilka partner ska vara med, hur ska balansen mellan dem se ut. Och sen handlar det mycket om att stärka de människor som är med där och att veta vilka de är. Bruno sa att det är ungefär som ett äktenskap. Det är viktigt att veta vilka som är involverade, men i det här fallet handlar det inte bara om en utan om flera. Soficatras pengar då, de kommer från andra finansiella och socialt engagerade institutioner med modesta krav på finansiell avkastning, som hellre ser en socialt hållbar utveckling än bara finansiell avkastning. Ja, det kommer en fråga om villkor här. Hur ska man kunna få lån eller ett engagemang från Soficatra? Ja, det krävs att det är ett bra projekt. Det krävs att det är engagerade och lojala människor. Det måste vara en tydlig bild vad som ska skapas, och det måste vara en tydlig koppling mellan bilden av vad man ska skapa och vad man i verkligheten gör. Så att man inte har en bild och gör någonting helt annat. Det måste hänga ihop. Finansiella villkoren beror på omständigheterna i projektet. Det beror på de villkor som de andra parterna vill ha. Men det måste också prata lite grann med marknaden. Och om man har en sammanvägd och kombinerad bild tillsammans med de andra parterna. Ja, ungefär så.
Ja, tusen tack.